Hello and welcome back to yet another Geek Show where I got Madonna's dick in my left ear. I'm your host, Alex Ecker.
I'm your host, Mr. Purple.
Damn it.
That's what I thought you were going to do anyway.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well,
all right.
Well, you know.
You surprised me there. That's fine.
Good. Do you remember that line?
There are a lot of lines in this movie.
That's true. It was one of the first things that I caught that made me laugh. But if you didn't read the title, you're listening to the spotlight about the movie Reservoir Dogs.
So, Alex, you've already stumbled into what it is people love about Tarantino. It's his dialogue.
Yeah. It's the dialogue is really good. The two movies that you've had me watch so far, there's this sort of storytelling where it breaks up and goes from different perspectives or from a different thing entirely.
Yeah, in both of them. Let's not talk too much about the
Yeah. We'll get there. We'll get there.
The consistent, the trend things until we get to that second movie.
Sure. That's not a problem.
We put ourselves in a weird spot where we watched two movies for Spotlights in a row before recording the first one.
Yeah.
I didn't want you to know anything about Pulp Fiction when you recorded this one.
Well, see, here's the thing. I didn't, but there's tons of memes that I knew about the movie. So I'm like, oh, this is definitely where that came from. But anyways, that's about Pulp Fiction. Let's talk about Reservoir Dogs.
Man, this might be a short one because I can't wait to talk about Pulp Fiction.
I'm excited. But
all right. So for setup here, Alex has never seen a Tarantino movie.
Ever.
I've seen all but one. And thank you for joining us on our marathon as Alex discovers what this is all about.
You told me to watch this movie, at the beginning of the week? Mm-hmm. And then you were like, I was like, what's it about? And you were like, nope, go in blind. And I'm like, all right, fine. Mm-hmm. And all I seen was the movie card on, what was it, Hulu, I think? And I'm like, okay, it's a heist movie. Let's watch it. And you get this,
and then they skipped the heist.
And you're straight in this big motherfucking breakfast where they're talking about like a virgin and all this other stuff about the ethical or moral treatment of tipping waitresses. And some dude's book, and he wants it back. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, what am I watching? And then that whole scene in the beginning, I've never had a big family breakfast like that wasn't because of a tragedy that's happened. And it wasn't just like, hey, let's get together and all talk and, whatever. And it was very relatable, even without that experience in my life personally. It was interesting to see how these characters flow, especially knowing that they really knew nothing about each other.
It was interesting to
not
see
even their
them
first names
portrayed as real people.
Yeah. And thinking back on it now without them knowing anything about each other, it's really fucking interesting. You know what I mean?
Yeah. For the record, Madonna met Tarantino. I think they worked together on a project I haven't seen. And the story is, I don't think she said this. I think she signed something and wrote it. And she said, Quentin, it's about love, not dick.
Oh, that's funny. Oh, that's really cool.
So I enjoyed his take on it regardless.
Oh, absolutely.
Of accuracy. and Buscemi's whole tipping thing.
A weird young Buscemi at that. Yeah. He didn't look crazy.
Yeah, this is pretty early for him.
Yeah, very, very young.
But his whole tipping thing, it does this weird thing where he's clearly an asshole. Mm-hmm. They're all assholes.
Of course.
I mean, they're here to be organized criminals together, and they're all spouting off racist nonsense. But you still kind of like Buscemi as he's doing this just for sticking to his guns, even though he's wrong. And even though he's a dick.
Right.
You still kind of appreciate that he's sticking by his guns while everyone else is talking him down.
Right. It's and the entire time you're looking at when shit gonna hit the fan, the entire scene, because they're getting to that point where they're getting riled up because of his own personal standpoint, and they're all mobsters, just the way they're dressed, the way their demeanor is, everything about them, and you're thinking, oh fuck, is there about to be a big old shootout here, or are they about to rob this restaurant? But I was thinking, wait, wrong movie. And then but this whole opening scene was very interesting. even though some of the characters you don't see again, if I'm not mistaken. Well, no, you see them again, but like for super brief moments.
End up being pretty minor characters.
Yeah, for the major roles that they
Tarantino himself.
Right, yeah.
Do you recognize Tarantino? Do you know what he looks like and recognize that he was a character?
Yeah, well, they put his name underneath of him when they showed the characters, didn't they?
Oh, okay. I think
it was because when they left the restaurant, they like had like the name cards underneath each person as they went. Now, Tarantino was in Pulp Fiction, right? Just for recognizing sake, he played the Jimmy dude, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, right. Okay, so I did recognize him. In fact, I recognized the blonde dude from Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction as well.
My boy Timmy Roth.
Yeah. Couldn't think of his name.
Tim Roth. Yeah. You might recognize him for The Incredible Hulk or Lie to Me.
Oh, okay, yeah. Now that you say that, all right.
Yeah, but he's phenomenal in both of these movies. I'd call him the highlight of this one, at least. Mm-hmm. He has stiff competition in the next one, but I'd call him the highlight of this one.
He does. I do have to say, moving on from when they were in the car and he got gut shot, it felt very overacting at first, but then I'm thinking about it and I'm like, no, because in like real life, if I got shot in the gut, I'd be a big bitch too.
Well, yeah. So there's a split moment where it catches you off guard and you're like, ooh, little too much there. And then you think about it and you realize, no, too little in every other movie where someone gets shot.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, he should be crying and screaming like a baby. I assume that's how it goes in real life.
Right. I've known people who've gotten shot and they never told me their reaction to it, but they've told me that it burns more than it actually hurts because they were like, well, think about it, because you have a little piece of a metal coming at you so fast, being shot out of a cylinder that had nothing but friction. You know what I mean? And like, it's a hot piece of metal, dude. It's going to burn before it does anything else. And yeah, I don't think I'd care about how hot it is if I got shot in the gut.
Yeah. It took me a good 10 seconds to go from, ooh, little too much to, no, this is phenomenal.
No, this is real.
Might be some of the best I just got shot acting I've ever seen. And then the whole relationship there building with Mr. White.
Yeah, that was cool.
Sincere or not, it was a really surprising place for it to go right after like being set up for a heist. You're like, all right, I'm in for this heist movie. Let's watch this go down. And then a character gets shot and is seeking comfort from another. And the other is like kind of taking on a real like father-like role there.
It was Mr. Orange, right? Who was with Mr. White in that scene in the car?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to remember the colors, as it were. Now, when they get to that warehouse and it's Mr. White and Mr. Pink, so Mr. White and Mr. Buscemi, I do have to say, like, it was an interesting dynamic to watch Steve Buscemi not in a comedy role and to see him panicking. And it was kind of a sight to see almost. It was very ergonomic for him, where he was fucking flailing around and talking a mile a minute. That acting there was pretty damn solid. And it's interesting to see because like you're immediately in between these two characters of Mr. White and Mr. Orange, one's comforting the other. And then just out of nowhere, this cold character comes in and he's very tough on Mr. Orange. Like, what is he, dead? And Mr. White's like, hey, like, come on, have a heart, that kind of thing.
Sure.
He realized that, the dude got shot because of him and he feels guilty. We don't know why he got shot and why it's Mr. White's fault. But all we know is that these two clearly have a bigger connection that we have yet to see. We don't even know what they were doing that got him shot yet.
Right.
We just know that dude shot in the back seat of a car.
Right. Well, and did it really matter what happened? Because honestly,
right, it was more of oh damn, what happened? Or it doesn't matter that it happened. It had been
a long time since I had seen this movie, and so I honestly didn't remember that we started doing unchronological stuff after the reveal.
Oh, okay.
But the way I remembered it in my head, like it takes long enough to get to revealing the rat that I thought the movie was over soon after that and forgot that it starts flashing back to anything and doing any kind of build up. And so I honestly don't know if it needed to go back. It would have been a real short movie if they didn't jump back and start showing us more stuff, but it didn't really matter what happened that got him shot. You can move on from there and don't need to go back.
Especially the way the movie ended, like it could have been very short, very quickly. But what was it? They stole diamonds, right, from a shop. It was a big heist, and the alarm never went off, or it went off, and then 4 seconds later they had cops right there, so they knew immediately that someone snitched, someone had them under wraps, really, and. It isn't until like characters start getting to this warehouse that Mr. White and Mr. Orange. Well, I'm assuming it was a safe house. It's kind of under the impression that it's a safe house, and it isn't until they all kind of get there that like they're all sitting there like, "Who did it? Was it you?" And then they have these aggressive fight moments where Mr. White and Mr. Pink get into it because Mr. Pink is freaking out about being professional. Keep in mind, we don't know Mr. Pink's name at this point, I don't think. And we just assume that Mr. White, really his last name is White. Until he says, he knows my name. Mr. Orange knows my name. And then you're like, why does that matter? Because like we had this scene where they were all together and like they knew each other.
What wasn't the scene of them all getting their colored names? Wasn't that before this?
No, it was after we found out who the rat was.
Oh, okay.
And when Mr. White says he knows my name and where I'm from, that's when this whole fight thing breaks out. And then who is it? Mr. Brown, the crazy radio guy,
Tarantino.
Yeah,
Mr. Brown.
Yeah. He comes in and man, Tarantino. I wouldn't want to be in a room tied up in a chair with him.
Oh wait! Back up. We got characters crossed. That guy's not Tarantino.
Oh, that's not Tarantino. Oh yeah. Wait, no, Tarantino was what? He dies. Yeah, was
pretty early.
Was it Blue?
No, Brown is Tarantino. Madsen, the actors. Actor's name's Michael Madsen. Doing the torture is Mr. Blonde.
Thank you. That's it. Sorry.
Yeah.
The letter B. That was close enough.
But yeah. So that scene was some stuff. And Tarantino.
God, was that uncomfortable?
The gore in this movie was considered at the time like way more shocking.
Yeah.
Than it is today. Like it's still hard to watch today, but it's not
a little bit
shocking. It's not surprising. You've seen way worse at this point.
Oh yeah.
At the time this movie came out, Wes Craven walked out of the movie because of that scene.
Seriously? What?
Yeah.
No shit. Wow.
Yeah. And and that's even with Tarantino deciding to move the camera away at the pivotal moment.
Yeah, of the ear cutting, as it were.
Yeah, and there are alternate takes where it doesn't move away, and they decided, no, the moving away is more effective.
Oh, yeah, because I
think he's right. But
it's making you go, you don't want to see this.
It's an interesting point, though, with a director who is known for really bloody, gory movies. It's interesting that even he can have a restraint moment and be like, nah, you get it. You don't actually need to see that.
Yeah. Yeah.
The same way that the heist isn't really the point of the movie. So forget it. You don't need to see that.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Which is super interesting for a movie about a heist where you don't even need to see the heist happen.
Yeah.
You only need to see the before and after.
Kind of the idea is that he loves heist movies, and it's like, but let's do a movie about what happens after the heist.
Which is super interesting. You wouldn't think with the way that modern movies are now, like, we want to see the action, we want to see the drama, we want to see everything, where a movie that was like, nah, fuck it, we don't need it, and it's still fantastic.
Yeah,
it just goes to show that with any situation given, with the person that has the right tools, can go very well. And that's what I kind of admire about this movie.
Yeah, well, and he was given a very small budget for this movie.
Oh, you could tell.
And you can kind of tell just by how much of the movie takes place in
exactly.
the safe house.
Yeah.
I wonder how the movie comes out if he's given a higher budget. I wonder if he wrote a version that includes the heist.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. That'd be interesting.
I wonder. It's probably public knowledge out there. That information's probably out there, whether or not there was a script with more going on.
Well, we try to go into these as blind as possible without really knowing much of anything out of the movie, except from like being raised around it and not seeing it until now, kind of thing. Which you could say is kind of like the movie. No, no.
but in any case, I think it's for the best that he ended up with a low budget here. It's kind of like a Deadpool.
Yeah.
Had a really low budget. I think it benefited from it, specifically the bit near the end of the movie where, oh shit, we forgot the guns.
Yeah,
that was because they ran out of money to do the gunfight.
Right.
And then it ended up being better.
The joke about the mansion where it's like, do only the two of you live here? It feels like we didn't have enough money to get more.
Yeah,
like that was
maybe
funny.
There would have been more if they had the money for it. Maybe that's not a joke.
Right. It's really funny.
Yeah.
Which I honestly, lower budget movies like that are still like A movies, but with a lower budget, there's more of a sincerity sometimes with them. You know what I mean? Because you have less options, which means you have to grow what we know versus all the outside world around it. So I don't know. It's an interesting thought, I think. But yeah, back to the torture real quick. Mr. Blonde.
That actor, Michael Madsen, had a hard time filming it.
I believe it.
Just on an emotional level, which is,
what was this, 89?
92.
I thought Pulp Fiction was 92.
95.
Are you sure it's not in the 80s? I'm looking it up.
Yeah, I've got it up. This is 92.
Is it 92?
Yeah.
Oh.
And
oh wow. At the time, this was very shocking.
Yeah.
But so excuse me, the whole movie.
Yeah, but so it's impressive to me how impressive Michael Madsen is in that scene while he's apparently struggling to do it, listening to the actor in the chair cry and whatnot. I could imagine as an actor that there's certain like a lot of, you often hear actors be like, oh, it's fun to play the villain, but I guess most villains don't have to film something like that.
No, not at all. And it was a real nice touch, like with certain breaks in the movie when they would show like the perspective of Mr. White or Mr. Blonde or Mr. Brown, when they would have the radio playing in certain points, and then you realized why the radio was playing. Because the radio was really like dull and boring, and I'm like, why is this here? Like, it would be better with silence. And then once we see the torture scene, I'm like, now it makes sense why we're hearing it. Okay, gotcha. Now, each of these characters have like a background, like I said, different perspectives of the movie, like Mr. White, Mr. Blonde, Mr. Pink, Mr. Orange. They all have certain perspectives before the heist that we get to see, before the actual heist. Like, what was it? Yeah. Blonde just got out of jail and they gave him a legit job, quote unquote, being a dock worker, so that way he could still do the real work. Mr. White was just a friend of the guy who organized the heist. I'm trying to think.
I don't think Mr. Blue has a single line of dialogue.
I think, he's just dead from the get-go. He's the one that got killed in the car, right? Like they got into the car accident and he like busted his head, or
did he also? Because Mr. Brown dies in the car.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, I remember watching Tarantino die, and then they're like, "Oh, it's just blood in your eyes. You're fine."
And then he dies.
And then I don't actually remember what happened to Mr.
Did he get shot? Really a character. Then when he wrecked, he died? Is like what?
You know, maybe. So the thing there was that actor was actually like a real world, like big time criminal that at some point in time put his life of crime behind him, like got out of prison, quit acting up, started writing I think novels and maybe like narrative films and whatnot about what he experienced, and he was actually just someone that Tarantino looked up to and saw a lot of his work and whatnot, and just asked him to be in here for this no line part.
No shit.
Yeah.
Wow. That's really interesting. Wow. Huh.
Yeah, that's Edward Bunker, if you've ever heard the name. I know I've heard the name outside of reading this.
I may have in random conversation, but I can't put a anyways.
In any case, not important, just a bit of trivia.
Yeah, that's neat.
So the choice to not go chronological here, how's that work for you?
Confusing at first until the ending of the movie. Like once you realize, we're showing backgrounds of each individual person as they kind of get the highlight in in the current time. Because like Mr. Blonde, we didn't see his backstory until he started really talking. Kind of the same with Mr. White, if I'm not mistaken. It was him and Steve Buscemi in that like bathroom scene where they're just talking, and then it goes to Mr. White, which his was kind of in like a chronological order of event. Because, I mean, the movie kind of starts with him, so it would make sense that it would start with his backstory. But, man, I don't know. It was kind of a lot to take in at first.
It seems like a way to, kind of control the pacing.
Yeah.
I guess. That's a thing Deadpool kind of has. Deadpool opens up in the middle of like a big action scene that's technically the middle of the movie.
Yeah.
And then keeps jumping between that and all the buildup, because if we actually started with his origin, you could be halfway through the movie before any action happened.
That's true.
So they tell it out of order just so that there can be excitement in the pacing on a regular basis. And it seems like maybe that was the idea here too, just to help control the pacing, but also I guess you wouldn't have the mystery of who the rat is if they didn't.
That's very true. Which, should we reveal who the rat is? It's you, the viewer. No.
I'm not spoiler warning you guys, because if you clicked on a podcast episode about a movie, your fault if you didn't watch the movie. So whatever. But so you wouldn't catch this on a first viewing, but on a repeat viewing, having watched it many years ago, I caught something with Mr. Orange,
the rat,
like a bit of a hint as to him being the rat. When who was it that got up from the table at the diner to go pay and comes back? Was it the boss? What's the boss's name?
Nice Eddie or something like that? No,
that's not
Joe.
Maybe, whatever. Doesn't matter.
He's like the only character that we know by name.
Yeah, but anyway, he comes back. He asks who didn't tip, and Mr. Orange is the one that rats him out.
Damn it.
That's like most of his dialogue for that scene.
Yeah, pretty much, right? Oh, shit. I did really like, speaking of Mr. Orange, I liked his backstory. It felt kind of the longest, but it was really neat to like It was like method acting inside of a movie. Like, the way that like he had to get into the character to be undercover. And, you know, having him recite this story day in, day out until he finally got to tell it. And that scene was actually really cool when he got to tell it, and they were showing us the fake story as it was happening. I thought that was pretty neat.
Yeah, and it's a bit of a trope to do
a fourth wall break inside of a fourth wall break.
The whole you have someone undercover, but then to keep their cover, they have to do shitty things.
Yeah.
And then the morality questions that come from that. It's a bit of a trope. Might be a new one here that it's not revealed to us that they're undercover until after the fact.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Man. I really liked the scene. And then I kind of liked the empathy you could feel between Mr. Orange and the cop that was being tortured.
You still believe him after the fact.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you still like there was actually a moment where when he reveals himself as the rat to the cop, and I'm like, I don't believe you yet. Actually, like just because he said he was. Like, he could be trying to tell him that he's a cop so that way he can get out of there into a hospital instead. You know what I mean? Because and it wasn't until, like, he said, yeah, I recognize you. Then I'm like, oh, okay, then he's definitely a cop. Man, the scene right when Mr. Blonde gets shot, though. Like, that was pretty intense, because I was like, oh, fuck. Like, even, because, like, didn't he start pouring gas on Mr. Orange, too? And I'm thinking to myself.
Yeah. No, that doesn't happen.
Are you sure?
No, he's nowhere near Mr. Orange when Mr. Orange decides to shoot.
Okay. I could have swore I seen him walk up to him before that point. But thinking about it, like, even if he did torch the dude, how dumb of an idea would that be? Like, realistically speaking, the dude's fucking crazy. Like, he really is. And like, I honestly thought he was going to be the rat just because of how insane he was. Because think about it. You're an undercover cop that is doing illegal shit. So go all out.
So did you have any idea who it was before it was revealed?
Yes and no, because I thought Mr. Blonde, but then I also thought Mr. Orange, just because the fact that, like, when I seen him laying there dead, I kind of, like, I've never seen the first Saw movie. I only know, like, the story of it. But, like, I thought of, you probably know what I'm talking about with the dead dude laying on the floor.
Saw spoilers. Saw spoilers. It's the dead dude.
Yeah, it's the dead guy. So I thought that, and I'm like, maybe he is? And then when he shot Mr. Bond, I'm like, fuck, he is. You know? It was either he was shooting him because he was the cop or because he didn't want to burn to death. I couldn't tell which yet until he said it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
do you have any nitpicks? Any criticisms?
About him being the cop?
About the movie at all?
I do, but I kind of want to wait until we finish wrapping this part up. Like,
sure. Okay.
Like, the end is when I kind of want to throw my nitpicks.
Sure. Finish your thoughts on this part.
No, I mean, like, I'm done here, but I'm like, when we get to the end of the movie is when I want to talk about my nitpicks.
Okay. I didn't realize we were going in order. I guess we kind of were.
We kind of were, but, you know.
Go ahead.
So at this point,
we are a very organized show.
Yeah. At this point, we get Daddy, that guy. Hey, Daddy, he's mad Daddy, that guy, who looks like a Jonah Hill motherfucker. Like, he looks like Jonah Hill. Yeah. I just see Jonah Hill when I see him. Does. And he comes in being a dick, and then they're like, he was going to burn this cop alive. He's like, this cop, bang, that guy's dead now. We don't have to fucking worry about him. And then, He was kind of a dick. Like I get why he was to Mr. Orange about him killing Mr. Blonde, because that was like his best friend. When we see Mr. Blonde's like backstory, like you realize that those two were really good friends. And it's okay. Here's a nitpick. I find it hard to believe that those two were friends, because if he knew Mr. Blonde, he'd realize that he's fucking crazy. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like,
okay.
Like there's a moment.
I mean, by our standards, he's crazy too.
Well, yeah, by our standards, but like mob standards, this dude's fucking nuts. Like he just is. And the thing is that when when they're wrestling, like in the boss's office, Daddy's office, you kind of think to yourself, after knowing how fucking crazy this dude is, how many wrestling matches have they had where that guy, that Jonah Hill looking motherfucker, almost got killed?
Yeah.
Like how were they best friends?
That's Nice Guy Eddie, by the way. Actor's name is Chris Penn.
Okay, so Jonah Hill is Nice Guy Eddie?
Yes.
Okay. I thought he was going to be McLovin.
We're not good with names on this show.
No, we're not. Especially me. I don't even know this guy's name that I'm talking to.
I couldn't have kept the colors straight if I didn't have Wikipedia open.
Right. But yeah, Nice Guy Eddie comes in and he's like, Daddy's gonna be mad. And then you killed my friend, Daddy's gonna beat you. But yeah, like I understand, like I sympathize with him because like that was his best friend. But he has to also realize that if he would have set that building on fire, it would have been a beacon for cops.
Well, that building wouldn't have burned. That was all brick and cement and shit.
You'd be surprised.
I think that's why they decided, well, he decided that was okay to do, was because he was basically setting what would have been a pretty small fire in reality inside a big, huge stone building. There was a pretty big open area for it to not touch anything. I don't
even then, though, even then, if the building didn't burn down, you would still see the smoke. Somehow the smoke would have escaped. And in broad daylight, no less. Like it's gonna stick out like a sore thumb. So it was a dumb idea, anyways. Like I said, I think the dude was just fucking crazy, and how could he be friends with Jonah Hill?
I wonder if he would have thought. I wonder if his thought was, oh, everyone will just think I'm having a bonfire inside, whatever.
Yeah, I'm just cooking a meal.
I would if I had a building like that.
Yeah, it's just what I do on Tuesdays, man. Whatever.
It gets cold outside, man.
Right. And then we get. I hate that I'm going to say this, but we get Fat Ed O'Neill walking in.
All right.
He gets mad. And sorry, I'm kind of stealing the show here for just this whole rant. And we have all the characters back in the building. All the ones that are alive, including the boss man, Daddy, and Jonah Hill. So next thing you know, Fat Ed O'Neill comes in and he's like, look, this guy laying here bleeding on the floor, it's probably going to die. He's the rat. I'm going to shoot him. Mr. White's like, nah, man, I've known this guy for 20 minutes. You can't do that. You can't do that to 20-minute best friend.
Wait, was it implied that this was their first mission together?
Yeah, this was all their first mission together. They don't know each other's names at all. Oh, we totally skipped over one of the best moments, though.
Well, yeah, they don't know their real names, but unless they said otherwise, that doesn't mean this is their first mission. They're intentionally never going to learn each other's names. That's
well, between Mr. White and Mr. Orange, this is the first time they've had to have known each other, because he was building his character for this mission. So this would have been his first mission.
Okay.
You know, granted, they had a good like character repertoire between the two of them. Like the mission goes bad, they're running because Tarantino dies from a bad head owie on a steering wheel, and they steal a car from a lady who understands the Second Amendment and shoots the cop in the gut as they take the car. And then that's when Fat Ed O'Neill comes in. Okay.
Like I said, we're great with names here.
Yeah. So he comes in. He's like, he's the only guy I wasn't sure about. I'm going to kill him. Mr. White goes, nah, dude, I've known this guy for about 20 minutes or longer, like a Domino's delivery. You ain't killing him. I'm going to kill you, my friend that I've known for years.
And you feel bad. You feel bad for Mr. White here.
Yes.
Because, like, you feel... It's funny. Tarantino manages to make you feel like, oh, man, Mr. White's getting betrayed here. He's so wrong and doesn't even know because he trusts his friend. And then you're like, wait a minute, though. It's the cop betraying the thug. Like, who cares?
Yeah. At the same time, like,
why do I feel sorry for this guy?
You feel bad for the bad guy.
Enough like a father that you're like, screw it. Let me feel bad for him.
Yeah, exactly. And you get don't shoot my daddy
in there under all that criminal nonsense.
You get Jonah Hill, don't shoot my daddy. I'll shoot you, man. Don't shoot my daddy. And then, or I'll shoot my daddy. I'll shoot you if you shoot my daddy. Anyways,
my dad can shoot your dad.
My dad could shoot your dad twice. No. Anyways, so we get this shit going on. Yeah. It's a classic Mexican standoff. Mr. Pink is hiding underneath the stairs because he wants to remain, professional. That was his big thing throughout the whole movies, being professional.
It's like when you're playing Smash and you're like, let me just outlive everyone by hiding in my own corner.
And then you get... Wait.
But I've never been lucky enough with that technique that everyone actually manages to Mexican standoff each other to death.
So you get all four of these guys. They're in the room. Emotions are tense. You got Mr. Orange still lying there, bleeding to death. And then I'm going to need you to throw some reverb on this, okay? You'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
Noted.
They all get shot, and game! Mr. Pink shoots Jonah Hill. Mr. White shoots Fat O'Neill. And those guys are dead. So like you're really like, okay, these guys are the bad guys. Like they're the ones we're not rooting for. So I don't care that they died. And then Mr. White comes in, cradles Mr. Orange up, and he's like, you're going to be fine. We're going to get you to a hospital. There's nothing to worry about now. Mm-hmm. Then Mr. Orange confesses to him that he's the cop. And then you realize that Mr. White still has his gun in his hand. And he realizes how stupid he looks. Mm. And then the cops barge in. Nobody fucking move. I'm going to blow you away. You hear one gunshot and then a bunch after.
Yeah.
Everyone dies.
The first one says.
Everyone dies.
Yeah, and it's implied that Mr. Pink didn't actually get away either because there's like 10 seconds between him getting out the door and the sirens.
Right. Exactly. So pretty much everyone dies and no one gets the diamonds. And at first I thought to myself, the fuck was the point? But then I'm like, no, I'm going to think outside of the box here. And I'm just going to enjoy the story for what it is. Mm-hmm. Because if you look at it like that, you are clearly doing this movie a disservice. It's about understanding a story and not what you want it to be. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
Like it's a movie that's lacking the action on purpose, where it's not about the action. It's about the character development. And not all the characters have to win for it to be a good movie, or that's a very Western storytelling thing.
Win.
Exactly. None of them even have to live. Mm-hmm. And I went from that split second of going, man, that was fucking dumb, to wow, that was really cool. Just because of that paradigm shift. It was just like that, you know? Why'd I snap? Sorry.
Good. So since I guess we're at the end there, I'm gonna throw out the only nitpick I can think of. There are moments of slow motion in this movie.
Yeah, they weren't
And this is, I'm going to call this out, and I'm going to complain every time I see it, even when we get to Empire Strikes Back. Don't do slow motion if you're not going to film in a higher frame rate to do it.
Yeah, it felt like a very edgy, like Nintendo Power VHS tape where everything had a filter. And it was like, you know, instead of just a smooth animation.
And so Empire Strikes Back does that in almost everything ever where there's slow motion, maybe up until like 300. Maybe like every movie up until then that does a slow motion sequence. They shoot it in 24 frames and then they say, let's slow it down. But now you have a 12 frame per second shot because you slowed it down. You didn't record it in a higher rate to begin with. And now it's chopping its way across the screen. And I don't know if maybe the technology to shoot higher than 24 on film didn't exist until around the time 300. I don't know the history there. Maybe it wasn't possible, but I still would have just preferred nobody did it until we had the technology to do it right.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, that's maybe 6 seconds of the movie I'm criticizing. Yeah. So it is a nitpick.
Well, yeah, it is a nitpick, but I have another one. If you're going to get shot to death in a already unbelievable scene by today's standards.
Continue.
Sorry, Dalton's dying. You don't hear that, but I do. It's awful. If you're not gonna if you're gonna get shot to death by fake guns through a windshield on a car by Mr. White wielding dual pistols, akimbo style.
It was pretty badass.
It was pretty sweet. I ain't gonna lie. It was a classic, like, say hello to my little friend kind of moment. And the thing is don't flail like you're a fish out of fucking water. Like, I get that's probably what they were instructed to do. Whatever, that's fine. It was just like a moment where it took me out of like it disengaged me for a moment because I'm like, the fuck was that? You know what I mean? But other than that, like, there's few things that I would even change or know how to make them better.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. So, I love this movie as well. Maybe I shouldn't say this because I don't want to paint your opinion for future movies. But as much as I love this movie and have nothing but the most minor of nitpicks, this isn't in his top 3. Okay. Maybe you already see that with Pulp Fiction. I guess we'll find out when we get there. Don't answer that.
Another slight question for you. Was the 90s really that racist?
Well, let's see. Let's remember. Okay, so I was 1 when this movie came out.
I wasn't even a thought when this movie came out.
Which means I remember this perfectly vividly.
Yeah.
I'd say it's more when it comes to like thugs and criminals. I'm assuming this was more normal. Okay. Because the important people in my life who might have found this movie relatable certainly talked like that. But I think from Tarantino's perspective, it's probably a shortcut way to affirm to you, hey, these people are assholes. Okay. But here's a natural organic way to feed that. Like a normal, a way to do that that's way too common nowadays, a way too often technique used to portray these people are terrible and this guy's a hero. We've probably seen at least 3 animes do this. You open with a rape scene and then the hero prevents the rape from happening. That's the less classy way to do it. That happens way too often. This is probably Tarantino's version of that. Hey, everyone's an asshole. Here's a racial slur to prove that to you right away. Yeah. And not have to dwell on it.
Right. That's fair.
And then he tries to play with the balance of
not saying that racism is fair.
He tries to play with the balance of, can I demonstrate to you that these people are all pricks and make you care what they're saying at the same time? Still engage you in their douchey ass conversation.
Yeah, yeah.
And he'll nail it with flying colors in every movie.
Fair. The only reason Maybe. Okay. Because I've seen almost 3 Tarantino movies. Okay. Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, and I'd say a good chunk of Hateful Eight.
Mm-hmm.
And they all throw racial slurs.
I'll tell you right now, Tarantino gets a lot of flack for it.
Okay. Yeah.
If he has one major criticism against him, it's this weird thing where not only does it happen in nearly, if not all of his movies, but it's frequently him saying it. And it's this weird thing where people are like, why is he fetishizing this so badly? Like, why does he want to say it so bad? It's like that meme. I'm going to say the N-word. He's that meme personified.
It's like Freaky Friday.
No, don't. Yes, it's exactly like that. And I don't know. It's weird. I don't want to examine the psychology of that because he hasn't actually performed an action that makes me go, is he racist? It's just, man, he really likes that word.
Yeah.
I think ultimately is this terrible to say? I think he just kind of wishes he were black.
Well,
and that's the best way he can get away with.
Yeah. Okay. Fair.
Whatever.
Fair. I guess.
Whatever.
It's, there's ways for directors to have a style, and I like his style. I just wish he weren't going down in history as the white dude that liked to drop the N-word in his movies a lot.
Right. Right. Absolutely. But I guess if it doesn't bother Sam Jackson, I'll let it go for now.
Sam Jackson was in 2 of the movies I've seen by Tarantino, so
he was almost in this one.
Really?
Yeah. The only black character in this movie, Sam Jackson did audition for.
Okay.
Tarantino later asked him, how'd you like the guy that got your part? And then I think Pulp Fiction was purposefully written around Jackson. But all right.
Oh, yeah.
You think we're done here?
I think I'm good. Sorry about ranting there and, flailing names that weren't names in the movie, but it was worth it.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
All right. Well, thank you guys for listening. Watch out for the rest of our little Tarantino marathon here and any other entries of yet another geek show.
Right. And I've just got one question for you. Does he look like a bitch?